Since 1971, when wild horses and burros became protected, the answer to one of the most consistently pressing questions everyone needs to know is, how many are really out on the range? This fundamental question is at the heart of management for healthy rangelands, proper forage allocations, as well as the financial costs of managing America's free-roaming herds. While BLM claims 33,000 wild horses and burros are still on the range as of February 2008, an independent review based on their own reported populations, reproduction rates, and removals found the most likely population still remaining is only 13,500, 20,000 less than BLM reported. Is there a way to actually prove what's left? Not without extremely accurate census methods and initiating a mass independent population count throughout the West. In other words, the chances of physically proving the remaining free-roaming populations are almost zero. But what can be done is to use the same reports and statistics BLM uses, then analyze those numbers through an independent process, and that is what the first part of America's Mustangs and Burros does. So how does the method work that determined the free-roaming populations are most likely significantly less than BLM continues to report? The cycle used is based on BLM's fiscal year, which begins October 1st and ends September 30th. Prior to 2001, BLM reported wild horse and burro populations at the end of their fiscal year on September 30th. However, this made it very difficult to assess populations, so a very necessary change was incorporated in 2001, when BLM began reporting populations on February 28th instead, in order to get a more accurate population snapshot before the foals arrived. BLM's fiscal year cycle was then broken down further into the following sections. Pre-foal removals. This shows removals which occur between October 1st and February 28th. Foaling season, which adds a 20% increase due to the new arrivals. The post-foal removals, which are wild horses and burros removed between July 1st and September 30th, and an alternative snapshot population at the end of each fiscal year to assess the impacts of the year's removals, as well as providing a new base population for application toward next year's statistics. Once this cycle was established, a starting base population was used, beginning in fiscal year 2001. Then, reported removals for each year were divided into ratios of 50-50, 40-60, and 30-70. What this means is, let's say BLM removed 10,000 wild horses and burros in the year analyzed. A 50-50 ratio subtracted 5,000 during the pre-foal season, added 20% for the new foals, then subtracted the other 5,000 which were removed between July 1st and September 30th. The same method was also used with the 40-60 ratio and a 30-70. The obvious impacts of applying different ratios is, the less BLM removes, the more wild horses and burros remain on the range to have foals, and this equates to higher populations. While BLM continues to report 33,000 wild horses and burros still roam free in February 2008, this analysis concluded populations ranged from 16,800 to 13,500, depending on which ratio was used, and this includes both wild horses and burros. However, due to a variety of factors explained in detail in the Mustang and Burro report, such as many inflated populations found throughout the last 15 years, fertility control treatments, and credible sources citing wild horse reproduction rates generally do not exceed 10%, it is believed that the 13,500 population is the most accurate of the three ratios analyzed of wild horses and burros still remaining on the range. While we can only speculate as to why BLM population figures fail to add up, the Mustang and Burro report explores the most likely theories, which range from census methods, including new techniques being currently developed, inaccurate range monitoring, and subsequently invalid appropriate management levels, reproduction rates, and finally, the possibility of BLM sabotaging the wild horse and burro program themselves. It also covers detailed examinations of herd management areas, non-viable herds, population modeling, fertility control, case studies of how AMLs were set, livestock and big game and their impacts, as well as a brief overview of allegations of improprieties within the program over the last 20 years. The most likely origin of the Burns Amendment, with evidence suggesting this was part of a comprehensive plan to manage America's herds to extinction, and of course, where America's wild horses and burros stand today. In my opinion, the current crisis has been deliberately manufactured, and the only issue that should be on the table is when BLM plans to return our wild horses and burros to their legally designated homes, as either they took more than was necessary or their AMLs are invalid. After they are returned to the range, I would like to strongly urge everyone listening to support a full-scale congressional investigation of the wild horse and burro program, followed by an amendment to the act to close the loopholes that BLM has been exploiting to death.